Welcome back to Football-Oranje. It is time for an Eredivisie full season preview. We're going to talk about every single side in the division. I'm here, Michael Statham, and Mike Bell, the Football-Oranje founder, is here too to talk about the Eredivisie sides. We're both people that have been watching the league for many, many years. We know the sides that are in the league this season, and we'll tell you where we'll think they'll finish in the league, and the sides and the players who you can be watching out for that will be breaking through this season. So we'll let you know where I think I'll finish in the table. If you're watching on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, this podcast, you can watch us on YouTube, download us on SoundCloud, and download us on iTunes. But wherever you are, please do leave us a like and subscribe if you're new, because we've got lots coming up in August, Dutch football-wise, and plenty more coming up on the website throughout the season. We'll give you plenty of coverage on each of the sides and match reports in each of the games. Now, Mike, how are you looking forward to this season? It's looking a little different, and we've just previewed, haven't we, the top 5 sides in the league. That's on the website. That is on YouTube for you to go and we'll listen to, guys, if you're interested. We've predicted the title winners and such. We're talking about each of those sides again now in this podcast briefly. But are there going to be some surprises this season? What do you think going into this campaign? Are there going to be lots of young players coming through like usual?
Yeah, I think that this is going to be an exciting campaign all around. I think there's going to be a tight title race at the top between two clubs that look very, very good. And besides boredom, they've got some fresh youngsters coming through. It's going to be interesting to see how they cope with some key players leaving, like AZ, and then you got Feyenoord with the young talents coming through. And then all around the table, I think that there's clubs that are looking to bring fresh talent through, because the year that they've had and the lack of money that's there is making them rely on their youth that they're bringing through, which I think is a good thing for Dutch football as a whole. I think at the bottom as well, we're in for another tight relegation zone. I don't know if there's a club that's just going to be absolutely hammered every week. So I think that there'll be 5 or 6 sides that can probably look over their shoulders and think that there's the possibility of relegation. I think there's one of the new sides that we'll get onto to have a very exciting squad coming up that has a few young talents you need to keep an eye on. So I think there's a lot of intriguing stories all around the table this year. And we've got just a fresh look in Dutch football this year, because we've got a new national team coach coming in. Again, well, it's not new, it's Louis van Gaal again, but he's starting a new World Cup run. We've got the World Cup next year. We've got a lot of talents coming through the Eredivisie this year, and I think it's an exciting time to get into Dutch football. I think that I've seen a lot of people on Twitter getting a bit fed up of the big leagues at the moment because of the money that's driven them, and they want something fresh, just a bit less money talks. And I think that the Eredivisie is a great league for anyone who wants to get into a competition that's based around youth talents and just managers that need to build sides around youth and youth quality. And I think that the Eredivisie is a league that a lot of people should be watching this year. If you're a bit sick of the big sides ruling, spending hundreds of millions on players, then get into the Eredivisie where it's a bit tighter and a bit less money driven.
Mike, that was an excellent preview of the league as a whole. I think people should be really into the Dutch league again this season because of the young players coming through, the intriguing stories that you have for all the sides. And there's lots of quality in the league, and I'm really looking forward to a title race this season between Ajax and PSV, who we both believe will be the top 2. They'll be going neck and neck each week to try and get the league. But there's stories throughout the table. Let's start at the bottom. The new promoted teams coming up. There's people that don't watch the second league that are interested in the Eredivisie, and they'll want to know a bit more about the 3 sides coming up. Let's start with the league winners of the Keukenkampioen-divisie, which is Cambuur Leeuwarden. Cambuur are a side who romped the second league last season, mainly helped by the goals of Robert Muren, who hasn't actually stayed at the club because he wanted to stay in the second tier. I don't quite understand the reasons behind that, but he's gone to Volendam. And I think that will make a big difference to them because they've not really signed too many players this summer.
Yeah, it's you look at it on paper, you're like, that's a baffling decision that he's just gotten them up with his goals and he's decided to stay in the second division. It's like a player, for instance, in England, that's just blasted his way for the Championship, scored 40 goals. Everyone in the Premier League wants to look forward to seeing him in the big league, and then he decides to stay in the Championship. But it's his career. I know Volendam are a club that's close to his heart, so he wanted to go back there. So good luck to him. But I think that Camber, without his goals and his quality, are a side that might struggle this year because they've not really went to the transfer market to bring in a lot of quality. The two strikers that they have signed, Sam Hendricks and Tom Boer, are two that haven't exactly done well in their previous Eredivisie campaigns. So I think that if they're looking to replace the goals of Muren, then they've not really signed that quality striker that might do it. I might be wrong. Sam Hendricks could be in the form of his life coming into this year, and it might actually surprise us in Eredivisie, but I can't see it. Unless they have some trick up their sleeve, I think that goals scored is going to be a struggle for them this year, and I think that they'll be one of the sides that will be around the bottom of the table this year.
Fair enough, Mike. I think that, obviously Muren's a massive loss, but for me they'll still stay up. I've got them in. I think we'll do our sort of table predictions a little later on, shall we? And we'll preview each of the sides that will be down there first. Cumber are a side that have kept a lot of their players from last season who helped them score these goals. Muren's missing, but they've still got Issa Callon, Michael Bryce still there, Hui Marcus, defensive midfielders there. Lots of players are still there from the core of the side that ripped the second division apart the year before. They were disallowed promotion because of coronavirus stopping the season. They're a side that have been burgeoning to go into Eredivisie for a long time, and this is a year for me that they won't be comfortable, but I think they'll stay up. Another side that have been promoted are Go Ahead Eagles. They're a side that are coached by Kees van Vunderen, who was the Dutch under-17s manager. We actually have an interview with him on the Football-Oranje website. That he's someone who I've looked at for a little while and thought that he's actually a really good coach, a good player manager. And they've signed a lot of players this summer, which could actually be one of their problems. I've got 9 significant signings written down here that they've signed, a few loans, a few permanents. But none really proven at Eredivisie level, which is a concern because they've also lost Sam Boekema, who's gone to RZ, and their goalkeeper Horta has gone to Ajax. They're two players who were very significant in the side last season, and for me, that means they'll struggle a little bit.
Yeah, last year, Gore broke the record for clean sheets because they're a very defensively sound side. They did well at getting clean sheets, and that's how they managed to get up towards the top of the table. And I think that coming into the Eredivisie without their two best players from last year, they're going to struggle. And the attacking quality of the sides in Eredivisie compared to those in the second division are night and day. So I think that this is a side that I really like the manager. I think that he's a good coach, but I don't think the signings are enough to keep him in there. Werner Hahn, he's a goalkeeper that didn't have a club for, I think, the whole of last season. I think he's only played internationals recently since he left Heerenveen. So that's a worry for me if he's going to be the starting goalkeeper of a year out.
Yeah, it's a downgrade, isn't it?
That's a big downgrade on one that, one of the best young goalkeepers in the Netherlands to go to him. Sam Boekema was an excellent defender for them last year. Now he's at AZ. And yeah, I think that they might struggle. Looking at the players they brought in, apart from Werner Hahn, there isn't many there that I could say that I've watched week in, week out and know much about. So yeah, it's a side that could struggle this year, and it's going to be tight at the bottom. There's 4 or 5 sides that could struggle this year, but I think that they'll definitely be ones that's down the bottom.
Yeah, I agree with you. We've also got a good coach. I don't think that the replacements that they've brought in are going to bring quality. A 26-year-old Spanish striker on loan. I don't think he's really played much regular football before at a high enough level. Joris Kramer is on loan from RZ. He's 24 now, and again, not really played too much football at a high level. Yeah, that's why I think they'll be down the bottom. But we'll let you know where we'll think we'll finish shortly. We've got a third newly promoted side to look at. And NEC Nijmegen, whilst they were the lowest ranked side that were promoted last season, I think Mike and I, we both got them to be actually one of the higher finishers out of the 3 promoted sides, because NEC Nijmegen have recruited really well. And when you consider they've got a player of Lasse Schöner's quality in midfield, who's come back to the club after a long time, Dueland, who's a 24-year-old left winger, looks like a player coming in who's high quality. And Akman, who is a 19-year-old striker on loan, and he sounds like he might take the Eredivisie by storm. Really interesting additions. Mike, what are your thoughts, and why do you think they're going to do so well?
I just really like their squad. I think they've got so many young talents. I think they have a very bright future. I think that when you've got the experience of Lasse Schöner in there, and you've got the experience of Edgar Barreto in the midfield as well, couple that with, say, 4 or 5 young players who I think that could play at the top of the Eredivisie. Eventually, you've got Dirk Proper, who's a young midfielder who is a Netherlands under 19 international, who has been linked with all the big clubs in the Netherlands, but decided to stay at NSA. And I think he's top quality. You've got El Karuni, the left back, who is predicted for big things after breaking through last year. Then you've got Kazo Dental, who's a centre back. He's also been linked to moves to Italy because of his showings last year. And then you've got Bart van Rooij, who's a right back, who looks excellent. I think could be a future Netherlands international if he gets a move eventually. I think that this NSA side have the right amount of talent mixed with experience to stay in the Eredivisie, and I think that they will. I think that they will surprise some teams. I think they've got quality over the pitch to do very well. I know they weren't the team that won the league, and they weren't the team that came second, but I think that their transfer business is enough, and I think that going up to the level that they're going up to with somebody like Tavzan, who I've not discussed yet, but if he stays, I know he's been linked very heavily with a move to Besiktas, but if he stays and he's a quality attacker who can score goals in the top levels, so I'm very excited to see this NSA side progress in the Eredivisie this season, and see if these youngsters who have been tipping for years can actually handle the Eredivisie level.
Yeah, interesting indeed. And those young players you mentioned there are all players who would have been stripped away from NEC Nijmegen had they not been promoted because of their potential quality. And now, what a stage to show their quality at the Eredivisie. Yeah, they'll surprise a few people, I think, this season. And I think that the next thing I'd like to talk about away from new promoted sides and now is a side that I think are going to really, really struggle this season. Pek Zwolle. They've been hovering above the bottom 3 for a couple of years now. And I do think that this is the year it's all going to come crashing and down them like a ton of bricks. A side that once had ambitions to be chasing for Europe in the Eredivisie have gone backwards so many steps. John Stakerman left last season after being really disappointing as coach, but I don't think that they've brought a good enough replacement. They've lost lots of key players. Lam's gone, Misidjan, Van Dounen, Moose, the goalkeeper, Razik Janajad's gone, Drost, Farai's gone back to Dortmund. And they've not really replaced any of their attacking players yet, apart from Castanier's coming from Coventry, and he hasn't played in a couple of years. The only thing I will say is that they brought in Kostas Lamprou as their goalkeeper, and he's an excellent goalkeeper at this level. But they've not recruited well at all, apart from that.
Yeah, I think that Pek Zwolle are a side that haven't learned from their mistakes last year. I mean, yeah, we talk about when they won the cup and they had ambitions to break into the top 5, but it's just been mismanaged since then, and they've not cracked on, and their squad hasn't got enough quality in it right now to really suggest that they're going to be anywhere apart from either struggling to survive or just outside the relegation zone. I know they've got some good youngsters coming through. Brav Vandenberg, the brother of Set, but he's only 16, 17. He's not going to play week in, week out, even though there's excitement around him. And I think if you lose the amount of attackers that they've lost, to lose the defenders that they've lost as well, Lam being a key player. But yeah, I think that this is a side that either has to make a number of signings in the next few weeks, doesn't look likely, or they're going to be definitely down there fighting for their lives.
Yeah, Agreed. They'll be down there, I think, if they get some late signings and they're going to take a while to settle in. So there's a lot to prove in that Pep Swallow. A side that I think, having done really well last season, that I think will be down the bottom 7 this year is Fortuna Sittard. I know that their owner likes to listen to our podcasts, and I don't think he'll like to hear too much what we're going to say, because they're a club I'd a bit of a soft spot for last season. But the signings that they've brought in, I don't really. They're big unknown qualities, I think, is a point. They brought in Ferrati, who seems like an interesting 23-year-old attacking midfielder. They've brought in a new goalkeeper, Dornebusch, but I don't see where the quality is coming from. I'm surprised that they haven't gone out and bought someone or loaned a couple of exciting young players. And they also need a couple of new defenders. And one of their prized assets, George Cox, the English left back, he hasn't been sold yet. So is he staying? Is he going? Maybe him going was going to release some funds for them. But I don't think they're going to kick on in the way that we wanted to see them do after some really good results last season, because their manager is a very good one, Sior Salte. He I think on the form table last season, they were constantly amongst the top 5 because they were winning so many games against mid-table sides. And it was really doing it for them. But I just think they'll fall back a level this season.
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing for them is that they've still got Fleming. I know he's been linked with Nottingham Forest, but they haven't been able to agree a fee with Fortuna Sittard yet. But you've got quality on the pitch that can score goals, like Fleming, like Poulter, like Reinstor's a good midfielder. They've got Semedo, who's done it in the Eredivisie. They've got St. John's, who can score goals in the Eredivisie. They've got the players there that can do it in the top level, and they've still got Cox, who's been a great player for them. I think that they are a sound team, and I've got them finishing around mid-table, but I just don't think that they've pushed on to improve the quality in their squad enough. That's down to the finances. Clubs like Fortuna Sittard won't have the money to spend, and they'll probably rely on maybe selling one player for quite a bit of money. So that's why I think that Fleming could still go, or maybe Cox, if there is interested clubs in him, which there should be, because he was excellent last season for Fortuna. So I think that maybe they're waiting for 1 or 2 to go before they can then delve into the transfer market, pick up a couple of players. But yeah, I have them around mid-table this season.
I think it sums it up when you said this about Semedo there. I'm not sure if he's left or if he's injured. I need to check that one. But I believe he's not going to play much at the beginning of the season, and they replaced him. I was told with a 19-year-old from the French 4th division. That is a bit of a switch, isn't it, in terms of quality levels? He's got obviously a long way to go to develop to become an impactful first team player for Fortuna Sittard. Well, we'll see how they get on, but I think they might struggle. You think they'll be mid-table, Mike, but I don't think we'll see them kick on and go a next level above to become a side who, given their transfer business last summer, maybe that's the thing. Maybe they spent their finances last summer on some new players, and it's they're paying for it now. A team that struggled last season, who will struggle again, is Willem II for me. They were struggling for a long time and ended up finishing 15th to avoid the relegation playoff. In the Eredivisie, it's the bottom 2 that get directly relegated, and 3rd from bottom goes into a relegation playoff against sides from the league below. And Willem II avoided that, and they may well have been relegated had they fallen into it. They've recruited a few Scandinavian players for the season. I don't know how good they are. I've not seen them play. They've lost Trezor and Chimier to Belgium. That might be a significant loss. Pavlidis has gone to RZ, but Vrit is still there, and he will have a whole year this year to score goals in the Eredivisie, hopefully, and that might keep them out of trouble. But a side who I don't think will want to push on back to the top ends of the Eredivisie where they were the season before.
Yeah, I think that the players that they've lost this summer are significant players. The Trezor one, if Nanole goes, then that's another big loss. But I think that up front they've still got Kohart, Nanole, and Wright for the middle. That's a good attacking trio. That should be enough to keep them in the division. But when you've lost the defensive players, they've lost a lot of quality at the back. Van der Heijden, Holman, Peters is gone now. Van Beek is gone. that's a lot of experience, quality at the back. You know, Bergstrom's come in from Utrecht, but he didn't exactly play a lot when he was there, and he's the jury's still out on him. But yeah, I think that they've got a couple of good quality young midfielders. Zuidewijk is a good midfielder. Spearings is a good midfielder, but they've lost a lot of quality this summer in Pavlidis and Trezor. So I think there is going to be another mid-table struggling season for them. But Fred Grimm's a good manager. I think he's a good appointment for them. He did well to keep up RKC last season. I think that he's done well to get that step up and see if he can bring some confidence back to the side. He's got young players to work with and a good striker, so we'll see if he can work his magic there.
Yeah, Fred Grimm's a good manager, and I want them to finish a bit higher, but I think they'll be one of the sides nearish the bottom. There's also AKC Waalwijk, who I think we'll both agree may struggle this season. Some of their signings, they've not lost too much quality, but they've replaced Lamproe, a great goalkeeper, with Pereira from Manchester United. But the jury's out on him. How good is he at top level, in a top level league? Kramer, striker, I don't rate anymore. I wonder how he'll play up top for AKC if they're going to rely on him for goals. But they've also loaned Odgaard, who was okay for Heerenveen a couple of years ago. They've got Latonda on a permanent deal. Alexander Butner is a high-profile signing. He's come back in. And Belhassani is a person who's really impressed at a higher level in the Eredivisie before in attacking midfield. I wonder whether the goals are going to come from Belhassani and Odgaard, or whether it's going to be a rather questionable season from the new goalkeeper and a couple of old campaigners who have just come back to Eredivisie to get themselves a move again in future, maybe. What are your thoughts on the side as a whole, Mike? Because they've also lost Fred Krim, like we just said, to Willem II, and he was a great manager.
Yeah, I think this side has actually lost quite a lot of quality from last year, the manager being the main one, but Tahiri was great for them last year. He's gone. They had Oosting on loan from AZ. He's gone. John, who did well, come back to Eredivisie. He's gone. Lamproe was their best player by far last year in goal, and he's left. And Vernon Anita and Ngong up front as well. These are players that all played their skins out last year who are no longer with the club. I heard today that Anita is back training with RKC, whether that means that he'll sign a new deal and stay. We'll see, but he was very influential in their midfield to add that experience in there. And I think that losing them is going to be disastrous for them, because I think that, you're signing Butner, but he's not done anything for years. And I think his contract got cancelled his last club because of his fitness levels. So that's not a good sign. And Michael Kramer, I mean, he couldn't do it for ADO Den Haag last year. He pops up with a goal here and there, but he's not a 20-goal a season striker. I think RKC needs someone to score some goals this year, and I don't think they have that. I don't think that bringing in Belhassani, Kramer, or even Odgaard, who was okay for Heerenveen, nothing much. I don't think these are going to be the signings that are going to be enough to keep them in the division. I can see them finishing definitely bottom three.
Let's actually hear them, Mike. What is your bottom seven this season?
So I've got Go Ahead at the bottom. I've got RKC 17th, Canberra 16th, Pex Volla 15th, Fortuna 14th, NSA 13th, and Willem II in 12th.
I've gone for the same 7 teams, but in a different order. I've gone with Pex Volla bottom. I think it could be that disastrous for them. RKC Waalwijk 17th, so the two sides getting directly relegated. Gone with Go Ahead finishing 16th. Then Fortuna just above the bottom three. Combo in 14th, Willem II in 13th, and NEC Nijmegen in 12th. So that's our sort of bottom teams. Let us know in the comments what you think your Eredivisie table might look like this season. It's time for us to go into some different teams now, the mid-table teams who might be looking to push for Europe. There may be a bit of a divide on the table this season, because I think the quality is a bit different now, looking at these sides. Sparta Rotterdam, let's talk about them first. A side that just squeaked into the playoffs last season. Henk Fraser's a manager. He's now the assistant manager of the Netherlands with Van Gaal. I really like him. I really like some of the players they've got too. Kenzo Houdmijn's a big year for him on loan there in the midfield. And then T still at the top, and he scores the goals. He's got a good system there, Fraser, and it should continue to work for them.
Yeah, I think that I really like the Sparta Rotterdam squad. I think Okoye staying in goal, him signing a new contract was a big surprise to me. With his head apparently sniffing around, I thought he was going to move, but he's staying. They've got a good, solid centre back pairing. Bugos Dyke. He's that old warrior. He's a bit of a character for Eredivisie. Yeah, sometimes he's a bit of a joke character, but he does the job, and he's a warrior for them. And he did the job for them last year to get them into the playoffs as well. And I think that in midfield, the big surprise for me is that they've still got Harui. I think there's still time in the transfer window for him to go, but if they can keep Harui, then that's huge for them. And I think they've got Tyafan who can score goals. Vito Van Croy, I think, is a great signing. I think he can add to this side, and then they've got some quality youngsters. I really like Sven Mayens. I don't know if he's found his best position yet. He seems to be played out on the wing. He's attacking number 10. They need to find out where he is best at. I think he's a good young player. And then they've got, for me, one of the best young talents coming through in the Eredivisie in Omega. I think that it's going to be a year for him to push on. He's been scoring goals in pre-season. I think that whereas he was getting 10 minutes off the bench here and there last season, I think he's going to be a bigger part of the squad this year. They want to convince him to stay. I think they're seeing him some pound signs if they can get, or euro signs, I should say, if they can get him to sign a new deal, get him playing more, scoring goals, and then he'll be sold on next summer for bigger money. So he's the one to look out for in the Sparta squad, because I think he's got a huge future ahead of him, and I think he will score goals in the Eredivisie this season. And I think that Sparta, again, are going to be one of these sides that can either finish mid-table or they can push into that playoff spot again.
Fair enough. Herakles Amalo next. What do you think about them?
For me, they did, as they always do last season, they're sort of annual sort of mid-table side that will always finish above the drop zone. They'll threaten playoffs. They'll sometimes make it into the playoffs, but never actually threaten to get into Europe. And I think they've done well to recruit some decent players this summer. I think Basakoglu is a decent Eredivisie winger, and I think the biggest news for them is that they've managed to keep hold of Rijvloot. I was expecting him to leave, but he's their main man. He scores most of their goals. Berkowitz on the wing as well. He's a good player. I think them staying would be huge for him. Wherever Rijvloot does get a move in the next coming weeks, we'll wait and see. But again, I see them another mid-table side, another mid-table finish. Not enough, I don't think, this year to push off into the playoffs, but it'll be around mid-table.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, they've got Propo as well from Twente, so that was a bit controversial this summer that their centre-back has gone to Twente, I meant to say. So they've tried to replace him with a player again from the German third division, which it can be hit and miss with Herakles when they go fish in the German third division. Sometimes it works, sometimes not so much. But Sonnenberg's new for them. Squad players have left. So not a great deal has changed. Still got the same manager. They are going to have a mid-table season. They tend to win a lot but lose a lot and not really draw many games. And we'll see if they can push on again or if it's just going to be more of the same for them. And they might well accept that because they're a club that are still paying off their new stadium. They'll be happy with the mid-table finish. How about Heerenveen next? I think that they've recruited okay this summer. Van Ewijk has come in. I know you're a big fan of him, Mike. He's coming from Ardo. Van Beek is an experienced centre-back. Stefanovic, I've heard good things about. He's a winger for Man City who's on the loan. Joey Veerman is he's very, very likely to leave. We don't know quite yet who for. Henk Veerman's still a striker. Heerenveen will listen to offers for Veerman, the striker, but he may well stay. They're going to be signing a couple more players yet, but they're not going to be significant players. They're much big players I'll add around the squad, maybe a couple of young players coming in on loan. And for me, just one downside to all of this is that Berkowitz, their centre-back, he's out for the season, injured. And he was fantastic for them last season. He was one of my controversial players that made it into the Eredivisie team of the season. The player himself liked it on Twitter, but a few people disagree with me that he shouldn't be in the team of the season. But I genuinely think he was that good, and he was ranked high amongst the top this, that, and the other for the different stats. So I feel like my choice was justified. Anyway, yeah, they're a side who I think will be around mid-table, and I'm not really be pushing for Europe. I don't see them surprising personally.
No, I think that the only reason really to watch Heerenveen last year was for Joey Veerman. I think he was by far their best player, and he's their quality man. And it's a surprise to me that he's still there. But with money being the way it is around Eredivisie, and the clubs maybe not having enough funds to buy him, they've got Feyenoord sniffing around him and trying to be sneaky by offering him a couple of fringe players. And for him, you've got him linked to Rangers and Verona in Italy. I think that Verona would be a good stepping stone move for him. He's one of the best midfielders in the Eredivisie on form. So I think that it's a surprise to me that maybe with PSV, with the money they had, if they went for David Crawford, they went for the more experienced midfielder. But you got somebody like Joey Veerman, who, if he kicks on and lives up to his potential, can be a £20 million player if he signed for somebody like PSV. So he will go, and it remains to be seen if Heerenveen can use that money to then go and sign some players, because they need it around there. They need maybe a backup striker. I think on the wings they're fine. I think they've got good attacking players. I think Van Bergen, this is the year that he really, really needs to step on and show that he can be a good Eredivisie player, because right now I think the jury's still out on him. Van der Heide, I think, needs to get more game time this year after being in and out of the side last year. Then you've got in the midfield, you've lost Lasse Schöne, but you still have the experience of Sam de Jong. You've got Congo in there.
Halilovic is a good player too.
Yeah, and in the defence, as you said, they got Van Uyk now, who's a quality right back. He was Out Den Haag's best player by far last year, and Heerenveen did really well to just step in and get him straight away. And he's a quality right back, and I think that he's one of the players that we'll see push on this year, have a great year, and move to one of the Dutch top sides. I think he's going to follow the sort of trajectory that Denzel Dumfries did when he went to Heerenveen to then move on to somebody else. But yeah, I think they're 2 or 3 players short of pushing for anywhere near playoffs, so they're definitely going to be around the table.
Okay, let's go to their Frisian neighbours, Groningen, who haven't again changed their squad too much. They've lost Itakura though, which could be important at centre back. He was also amongst the top centre backs in the Eredivisie last season. De Cruz has left after being finishing his loan. Robin, of course, has retired. Sergio Pat, the goalkeeper, who's there for many years, is gone. But in terms of additions, they've signed a centre-back, Bolker, from the second division. Significantly, De Leeuw has come in from Emmen, back to become their striker again. I think he could score some goals for them this season. He's not finished by any means. And Gonga's coming from RKC, and they signed a centre-back called Sverko, who's a 23-year-old. It's a couple of changes in the defence, but overall, a settled squad, and they've got some young players who will be out to impress this season. Abraham is the Swedish striker. He may be important this season now that he's settled in after a few months in the Netherlands. And also Suslov is someone I've quite liked in the past. Again, someone who needs to step up. I think that kind of pressure is important with players such as these, because once they feel it, they know they have to be important. That can really help them grow. That's the Eredivisie as a whole for you. Players who come into the side, and once they know they're the first choice, they step up and they rise to it.
Yeah, I still like this Groningen side. I think they've got quality all over the pitch. Maybe in goal, they need to sign a new goalkeeper. Hoekstra's there. They got Leuenberg. I don't know who's going to be number 1, but I think other than that, they've got a decent defence with Tverik and Dammers in there. Van Hintem, Dankelui, all solid defenders, and they got Gudmundsson, who was a revelation at left back last year and got linked with a move to Italy.
He's remained.
Yeah, he's remained at the moment, but he could be one of the ones to go in midfield. They've got plenty of quality. El Hankuri, again, he's been linked to moves away. You got El Masalide, and Matasua is still there, even though he's been linked to moves away. And then you've got the youngsters. You've got so many youngsters coming through in Groningen, like Suslov, Abraham, the Van Kam brothers, Sloor. Up front, you've got Postema, who did okay on a loan to Den Bosch last year. He's got to come back and show that he's quality. And then you've got Strand Larsen up front, who's a good striker who can battle for that starting spot with Deleu. So I think all around the squad they've got quality, and if they do sell one or two players between now and the end of August to pick up a couple, I think they'll be fine. I think they're a playoff side again.
Another side that I think will be in the playoffs, FC Twente. I really like their summer additions, real quality in my opinion. I know that a few players have been injured already though. Misijan and Lukoki are both injured. Lukoki's actually out for the season, and he was great when he was in the Eredivisie before. Czerny's still coming back from his injury. But they've signed some other quality too. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Ugalde is a 19-year-old striker on loan. He can play out wide, but also up top. He will be the second choice behind Ricky van Volswinkel. A lot of football fans know Van Volswinkel's name. He's into his 30s now, but a striker who scores goals, always does in the Netherlands. And I think that he will be important for Twente this season. Chupé's come in. Proper, like I said, has come from Heracles to be their new centre-back. And also, very importantly, Untitled, one of the better goalkeepers in the Eredivisie, has gone to Twente to replace Drommel. Almost doing a bit of a swap there with PSV and Twente, but still a very high-level goalkeeper for them. And I'm tipping them to surprise a little bit too. What are your thoughts on the Mike? Because they've also kept some players like Jason Oosterwolde, who's a great defender coming through, only a teenager still. But I want to get your opinion on some of the other younger players coming through because I'm not sure about their quality yet. But people like Zerouki, players like these, Bosch as well. Do you like them?
Yeah, I think that Zerouki was hit and miss last year, but he had a very strong second half of the season. Bosch did well. I think that Oosterwolde at the start was one of my revelations of the season until he got injured, and that sort of stunted him a bit. I think he's going to have a great season again on our left back. And Thijs van Leeuwen is another one to look out for. He's playing on the wing at times last year. I think he's a very good young player. And I just really like this FC Twente squad. You got Romero in the middle as well. And they're adding quality as well with Sadilek on loan from PSV. And they're working on a deal to get Vlap from Anderlecht as well, who, as we know, did very well in his time in Eredivisie with Herenveen before he left for Belgium. So I think that all over the pitch, in goal, they've replaced Drommel well with Untitled at the back. If you had a back four of Truppe, Oosterwolde, Proper,
and Huisman,
and Brazil, I think that's a solid back four. And you've got Kipieri as well and Small. So I think they've got centre back options. They've got a midfield of Merito, Zerouki and Sadilek, and then up front you could play a combination of Misijan, Cerny when he's back, and Van Volswinkel for the middle, and then you've still got Illich on loan from Man City. You've got Val Brama, who's the captain midfield. You've got just a squad that's packed with what I think is good Eredivisie quality, and I think that they'll be in the playoffs, and who knows, they could, I think, maybe spring a surprise further up the table, but I think it's definitely playoffs they're looking at.
And good to see that Twente are back up that end of the table too, because it's a far cry from last summer when they had barely any players. They couldn't even field a starting 11 almost at one point of pre-season. So what a change that is. And we're seeing them at this end of the Eredivisie. There's another club we need to talk about, FC Utrecht. A very stable summer for them. So unlike Twente, they're actually very quiet in the transfer market. But two significant additions for me to that squad, which is Quentin Timber, who I think is high quality like his brother Jurrien Timber, but his injury held him back a year. He will be looking to play games in midfield, perhaps defense if necessary. And also Duvakas is a Greek striker. They're putting a lot of hopes in him scoring the goals this season if Dalmau doesn't play a lot of games. So they've got to get the best out of Dalmau for me and this young player Duvakas if they're going to do well in the top sides this season. But they're still a solid team that can certainly mix it up amongst the best sides in the league. And I think they'll be in the playoffs again.
Yeah, I think I've got them finished quite high up the table because I think that if they can keep their strongest 11 on the pitch, I think they've got a lot of quality, and I think that they can can strive for even a top 5 finish, because I think that in Adam Meyer, they have one of the most underrated midfielders in the league. I think he had an absolutely brilliant season last year. And then you've got Kirk still up front. He's been one of these players that we keep saying he's going to leave, but he's still there. And as long as he's still there, he's still a quality forward. And he'll get in behind defences and he'll set up attacks left, right, and centre. Then Hilly Tervest was a great signing in January. I think he was great in the second half of the season. He got a good, solid centre back pairing. If you can keep Santiago fit, you've still got William Janssen in there at the back, the old warhorse. So, and Quentin Timber's a great addition to midfield. So I think he's got a lot of quality. And then this year, I tipped him last year for a big breakthrough year. And then he got injured for the whole season. So this year, I'm expecting big things from Davy van den Berg as well in the midfield, to see if he can live up to his promise. So I think that all around the pitch, they've got good quality. It's just they need that goal scorer. They need Dalmau to prove himself as the forward that they thought they were signing, that can maybe score 15 to 20 goals a season. They've also got Silla up front as well. He's decent. And then they've got obviously Devekis as well coming in. So if one of them can start banging in the goals up front, then this Utrecht side are capable of heading the top 5. I know they want to be the new AZ and challenging for a top 3 finish, whether that's this year, whether they've got enough quality for that, we'll wait and see. But yeah, I think they'll definitely be up there challenging for top 5.
Yeah, that's the thing with Utrecht. They haven't actually changed too many things. Last summer they changed a lot of things in their squad, and this summer they haven't very much. Perhaps because of Corona, they haven't actually haven't had the finances to alter their squad massively. But the quality they've got is good, and will be enough to be the best of the rest, if you like. Let's hear your table then, Mike. We did our 12th to 18th sides. Let's go 11th upwards now. What have you got?
So in 11th, I've got Heracles. 10th, I've got Heerenveen. 9th, I've got Sparta. 8th, Groningen. Twente in 7th. And then Vitesse in 6th.
I've got very similar to yours. Well, I've gone with Sparta in 11th, Heerenveen 10th, Heracles 9th, then Groningen in 8th, Twente in 7th, Utrecht in 6th, and then the top 5. Now, you may be thinking, wow, have we got to this far without talking about the top sides yet? We've done a separate video to this, available on the website and on YouTube, where you can hear who will think will win the league and why. But I've gone with Utrecht 6th, RZ 5th. I think they'll fall back a little bit this season. Feyenoord 4th, Vitesse 3rd for me, then PSV 2nd and Ajax 1st. Who is your top 5, Mike?
So I got Utrecht in 5th, AZ in 4th, Feyenoord 3rd, Ajax 2nd, and PSV Eindhoven coming out on top.
And if you're wondering why I've gone for Ajax, Mike's gone for PSV, do check out our top 5 Eredivisie title contenders chat that we had, where we talked about those top sides. I'll leave the link in the description on this podcast, so you can check that out. Quick last things then, Mike, before we finish. We've got a few things that we would like to have a little guess at each year, and I'm terrible at them, and you're pretty good at them. Who do you think is going to be the cup winner?
Cup winner, I'm going to go with Ajax to win the cup.
Oh, do you think? Yeah, I suppose if they're struggling in the league, that point, or Champions League rather, they might go for something like that. I'm thinking it's a season for a side like Utrecht to go for it again if they haven't got European games to look after. If a test knocked out early, they might go for it. I'll plump for Utrecht, knowing that it's a complete long shot. We'll see. They've got good quality, and if they're not playing two games a week, they might fancy a shot at it again. Top goal scorer? Who's in the running for that?
It's hard again, because for me,
there's no obvious choice, is there? Because Aller's at Ajax, and he should be scoring lots of goals, but we know that he can be hit and miss. AZ have lost their best striker. Feyenoord haven't got someone yet. Vitesse, it could be Fredriksson, their new signing. PSV, I mean, do you really think one of them is going to score more than 20 goals? Or could it be someone lower down the table?
I guess if you're looking at somebody, PSV are obviously going for Luke de Jong to come in as well. If Luke de Jong comes in, then for me, he would immediately go to. I know it's difficult for me to say because every single time Luke de Jong pulls on an everyone's shirt, I go, oh, for God's sake. But in Eredivisie, he scores goals and he's a handful in Eredivisie. I think that if he had Gakpo and Madueke next to him, I think he would score a lot again in this PSV side. I think the obvious choice is to go for Sebastian Haller. I think that if Ajax again create so many chances and beat the teams that are in the lower end 8-9-0 again, then you'd think that Haller would be the one that would be it. But I'm going to try and think and go for one that is a surprise choice down near the bottom. And I'm thinking Quasi Wright might be the one that has.
I said him last season. And he
But
got
he's not
injured.
got he's not got Pavlidis in his way this year, so he's got a free run at it. So Quasi Wright might be the one that does something a bit special. And Strand Larson at Groningen, if they, I guess, if you got a manager like Danny Boyce who plays the way he does, it doesn't really suit a striker. But yeah, let's go for Quasi Wright, and then even dare we say Ricky Van Wolfswinkel?
I think so, yeah.
Maybe having a good year up front for Twente.
Yeah, you got him, Henk Veerman still at Heerenveen. He could do something like that. Yeah, I'm sort of thinking Rit and Van Wolfswinkel, but also Haller. I'll go with Van Wolfswinkel personally. He'll take penalties there too. That's also important. We've looked at Heracles did well last season from that kind of thing, and he might again too. How about young players to surprise, Mike, that we maybe haven't mentioned yet already? Because we do things all the time in Football-Oranje. I know there's a piece you're doing of the best Eredivisie young players coming through. I've put something up on YouTube for the Wonder Kids coming through, Dutch players in general, rather than Eredivisie. And we've talked about some of the players coming through NEC Nijmegen, for example. But who are the young players we definitely need to keep an eye on this season? I mean, just for me, it has to be Nana Madueke. He's going to be the one, isn't he? The English winger. Anyone else that's like very significantly coming through?
Yeah, I think Madueke is the easy choice because he's going to be the next big, huge Eredivisie sensation, I think. I think you're looking down the table. If you go to Ajax, you're looking at Kenneth Taylor maybe getting a shot this year. Then you got Rich at right back, who is quite with Timber as well. If you're going to have a young players to break through in Ajax, Jan Fitzgerald is a young midfielder that's looked very, very good in pre-season. I think that he's going to be a superstar, whether that's this year or he's given another year with young Ajax before making his big breakthrough. I think he's one that once Gravenberch maybe goes next year, that he'll take his spot. And I think that he's one that is going to explode in the scene in the next couple of years. For Feyenoord, you've got, if Banis gets a chance, maybe he can kick on. And then you got Milambo as well. For AZ, you've got Buchanan Tabuni. I've been tipping Tabuni to do something for years. I watched a couple of AZ preseason games where he was looking great for AZ. So maybe this is his year to get a chance. And they've also got a young winger who can play as a striker called Ernest Poku, who's a 17-year-old who looks very, very big and strong. And I think he could be a sensation if he gets enough game time. You tried David van den Berg, Vitesse, you've got Cornelis as well. Twente, you've got Oosterwolde. Groningen, you've got the Van Kam brothers and Postema up front. Sparta, Omega is the one to look out for. Heerenveen, Van Heide, Willem II Spearings, Zuderwijk, NEC Proper, Tavzan. And yeah, I think that's the ones to look out for if you're looking at Pegsvold and Vandenberg. But again, he's so young that he might not get a chance this year. And if PSV want to give him a chance, Fode Fofana as well as a young striker who looks very, very exciting. But contract talks are stalling and he's only got 1 year left on his deal. So maybe he's one that might end up leaving before he gets his big chance at PSV, which is a shame because he looks a top quality striker.
No, there's a good list there, Mike. I can tell you've done your research and the young players coming through this year. And I'm going to put you on the spot for this last one. Who do you think will flop this season? Every year we go through players who we think will just have an awful season. We hope they're not listening to the podcast. We hope they've not enjoyed the whole way through. Then suddenly they realise their names in here. I went for Jorgensen last season and he was awful for Feyenoord. I feel like I got a little win there. Is there anyone else that could comes with high expectations but will just do awful? I guess Ale is one of those players, isn't he? Because he's come with this high reputation and money. But I think he'll do well. I think he'll have a good season. But he might not be someone who's as important as he could be.
Yeah, if you're getting players that have been signed that could not do as well as everyone thinks they could do, there's one that sticks out in my head that might be a bit controversial. I think he is a great player and he is capable of doing great things at Ajax. But if you've got a contender of a player that might flop and might not do as much as everyone expects him to, Steven Berghuis is the one that will have. If you're thinking of someone right now who could flop, it could be Steven Berghuis. If he doesn't live up to expectations, doesn't score many goals, because we know at Feyenoord he was known as a bit of a penalty scorer. If he doesn't score the goals, Ajax don't say win the title or do well in Europe, and he puts in a couple of bad performances, then he might be the one that everyone looks at. Obviously, he came for such a little money that it's low risk. I think there's potential for him not doing as well as he possibly could do. It's hard to say because there's not been a lot of players that have been signed for big money. Pavlidis is another one that could flop a little at AZ as well if he doesn't score the goals that everyone expects him to, and especially with the pressure of having to replace Boadu as well. But yeah, it's difficult to always predict who could flop. But they're the two for me, and Kochu as well. If he doesn't have the season that everyone expects him to have, he might be one that we're looking at next summer going, he's not as great as everyone thought he was.
Yeah, for me at the minute, he could be one of those who flops, Kochu. I'm waiting for him to prove me wrong. I want him to. But for me at the moment, he could be that player who plays a lot of games and doesn't do all that much. We'll see. We'll see. If you've enjoyed this, though, and now you're ready to go and listen to our podcast about the top 5, go and check that out now. But if you maybe already checked that out first, and now you're listening to our 4-season preview podcast, do let us know who you think will be at the top, who you think at the bottom get relegated this season, who you think the top scorers might be, the cup winner. We put something out on Twitter for this already, but you can use the YouTube comments if you're on there to let us know, or tweet us and let us know who you think will be the tops and the flops this season. If you've enjoyed this podcast, do give it a like. We've obviously been going for a long time now, but we know that you guys who love the Eredivisie will have loved this podcast, we hope, and have been indulging in every single side, knowing who the ins and the outs have been, the new managers, the new stories that will happen this season in Eredivisie. Of course, so Football-Oranje, we've got you covered. Go and check out the website throughout the season and see who's winning, who's losing, who you could put some money on if you're a better, but also which stories you can keep an eye out for too. You can follow us both on Twitter. You can follow Football-Oranje on Twitter too. And there's lots more to come throughout the season, and also lots more to come in August if you're listening quite concurrently to this, coming up on our website. So keep an eye out for that. And from me and Mike, it's goodbye for now, and hope you enjoy the Eredivisie season coming up.